tune with fitness. And any questions that you might have for me in general. Anybody got anything? Any of those questions? Or are we going straight in? Okay, fine. Y'all asked for it. All right. So my name is Andres. I think I've met individually with all of you guys, but John is here, so I'll introduce myself again. I am the director of NPTI, so I'm one of the directors, so I help with the course protocols and admissions and many other things. You guys have met with me for the admission process. I also am the president of Pledge to Fitness. How you doing? Easy. Come on in, take a seat. I am also the president and owner of Pledge to Fitness downstairs. We are the exclusive group for the core that handles walk-in staff training. We are also our own entity. Okay, so 5 years ago, a little bit less, we started Pledge to Fitness. I myself and then my business partner joined on. It's grown to be a sizable entity. We're opening a new studio on the other side of 610. We just got the keys for that on Monday. Sean's seen it, so it is real. It's not a girlfriend in Canada. So yeah, so I'm here, and if you guys have, we'll have a few moments of Q&A throughout the day. So feel free. I don't generally teach this class, nor this particular subject, so I'm going to do my best to stay up to the par that Jocelyn has set. But at any moment, you're also totally free to ask me about business concepts, starting your business, everything from LLCs to marketing to branding to blah, 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 whatever you can think of. And particularly the practical stuff. I know Jocelyn's very good at that as well. I should be right up there with her. As far as practically being on the floor, training people, having an office, those things, having a team, I could definitely help you guys with that, okay? So, we'll start off with trainer tips of the day. Okay, so you're gonna have, I'm doing this, Jocelyn does tips of the day for you guys, all right? Okay, so, again, if I miss anything that you guys are used to and you find useful, I will do my best to deliver something that makes sense, okay? The first trainer tip of the day, is you are being watched. Okay? This is not to be creepy. This is just the reality. You're being watched constantly, consistently. As you're on the floor, you're being watched by your client, making sure that you are engaging, that you are explaining things and demonstrating things well. You're being watched by the people around you. Hey, who's that trainer? What kind of work does he do? Oh my God, is he a good trainer, or is he a liability to this place? Potential clients walking around the gym. I can't tell you how often that happens. If you are a trainer amongst trainers, then okay, well, you're probably not going to be watched. It's going to be a PR situation, people knowing you as a good trainer or not. But as you get more specialty, so if you are really good at stretching, if you're really good at muscular therapies and joint therapies, that changes things, right? There are more reasons why we might end up with a new client who's already with another trainer. So that's happened to us the other day. We started massage, and all of a sudden, all the trainers were like, finally, somebody that I can trust to massage me. I'm obviously not the one doing it, but finally there's somebody I can trust to send my clients to. And so when you have that, those are the things that will play. You have been watched, people have begun to trust you, and so whatever way you can help them, they're going to look for it, okay? So that's number one. Number two. Learn to read faces, okay? Learn to read faces. I know that I've heard many times, it's literally in this book. And I've heard even an article the other day that said, if you can talk through your workout, you're not really working. Okay, the talk test. Have you guys heard of this? So essentially trying to get your client to the point where he's breathing so hard or working so hard that he can't talk to you. It's a very simple bar metric. The problem is that the second that the man stopped talking to you, yeah, he might be fine and not talking to you, or he might be about to pass out and not talking to you. Both of those things involve not talking to you. So you have to be able to read faces. Not only that, is the talk test the bar measure that we should use if we just met somebody? Like if, Sean walks in randomly, hello man, I'm 40, I have knee issues, and I'm like, all right, let's make sure you can't talk for the next hour. That's a problem, Okay? As a matter of fact, my future brother-in-law came back from training at 24. He's a 44-year-old man, owns a plumbing company, does a lot of plumbing work. Okay, so he's got issues, he's tight, he hadn't worked out or had any time to do anything for 10 years. Guess what? They get over there, he buys 3 sessions, they give him 3 free, he did 3 and he never went back. Okay, it was a 21-year-old being like, yeah! Making him push sleds, pull her on the sled, beat him up, wanted to make sure that his chest, because it was chest day, that his chest was done. Right? That's what we, after we're done with this class, we're going to look at that and see that as silly training. Okay? Doesn't make sense. Does it make sense to break things into muscle groups? Yes, in the right situation. Does it make sense to push people past their thresholds? Yes, if you're trying to break thresholds. But if you're trying to create a consistent, steady line of habit formation, behavioral formation, then probably you're going to be wanting to read their faces, make sure that they're enjoying it to some extent, and be the gatekeeper to pushing thresholds, right? Like, I know Fernando, I've been working for Fernando for a while, so I know what Fernando can handle. But if I'm just sitting there throwing things at him until he can't talk anymore, we're going to have an issue. So learn to read faces. They're much more truthful than what people actually say. Okay, number 3. Number 3 is going to be master your anatomy. Okay, master your anatomy. Okay, there are many other tips I can give you, but this is a good one. This is going to extend into stretching. It's going to extend into any sort of hypervolt therapies that you do, any rolling therapies that you do. Those are going to be absolutely crucial for retention and recovery of your clients. If you just beat them up and that's it, if you don't teach them how to get rid of tightnesses, you're going to run into the number 1 reason that people stop working out, which is? What was that?
Soreness.
Soreness. Pain. Pain, right? Soreness will pass, and too much soreness can be scary. Because I don't know if you guys have, like I remember very fondly, maybe not fondly, but I remember very clearly, the first day that I ever worked on deadlifts, and I woke up at 3 in the morning, and it was NPTI, hours, it was just like this, I'd never touched a deadlift. And for you guys who don't know, I got into the business not because I was like, man, I love training, I just wish I could train every day. That's not the way that I got into it. I got into it because I was very, very sick, and because I wasn't working out, and I wasn't eating healthy. So I was 21 and 325 pounds. I was in, not in good shape. I had 9 pre-medical and actual conditions, current conditions. And I lost 125 pounds very radically. And then that led me to one other extreme and blah, 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 blah. Until finally, you find a place where you can actually just exist, right? Exist and stay somewhere for 3, 4, 5 years, okay? That is what you are trying to do. You're trying to retain people. People will be different from you. All of your clients won't be exactly you on the other side of the table. So make sure that you understand people's pathways, master your craft so that you can help them stay with you as long as possible, okay? It's always up to you. It's always up to you. If you are, if you're saying, it's not something I want to get into, and you don't refer it to somebody else, good luck keeping that client, right? You gotta be able to either do it yourself or refer to somebody that can. Cool? Any questions about these? Whee! Okay, so what we have to cover today is the cardiovascular system. It's not like a small thing, not important. We're going to do cardiovascular system, we're going to do bioenergetics, we're going to get a nice workout in as usual, and bioenergetics is going to be the long one, okay? Bioenergetics are the systems that make your body function, particularly in fitness, but in general. And so that's going to take a little bit, and it'll be a little in depth, okay? So let's start off with something that we can chew on. If you guys start falling asleep, we'll go send you for a cardio class as usual. Otherwise, I'm going to try to get through it. Please stop me if I am moving too fast. Stop me if I'm moving too slow, okay? I'm going to try to go in a way that makes sense for you guys. What do we need to apply immediately? What's going to make sense? Okay, what's going to make sense for you practically? So, the cardiovascular system. What are the 3 parts? Number 1, I'll give it to you, the heart. What else can somebody give me?
Lungs.
Cardiorespiratory system will include your lungs. So we're not quite there yet. Cardiovascular. We've got our heart, the blood vessels, and the blood, right? Okay. Now, lungs. Okay, so the cardiovascular system is the one half of the cardiorespiratory system. Okay, so that's where Mr. Sean just went, and that does include your lungs. It also includes other things like your bronchioles, your bronchi. It includes your pulmonary airways. Okay, all the airways through which your air goes. That is all included as well. Okay, the cardiovascular system is what pumps blood throughout the body. Okay, blood has many functions. Okay, it oxygenates you. It protects you. If you start bleeding too much, it protects you. Your platelets have that function. Okay, and we'll cover all of these a few different times. You're going to find, obviously, that your heart is located right in the middle of your chest. Okay, anterior to the spine and posterior to the. Anybody know what that nice chest plate there is? Your sternum. But I saw where you were going. Your sternum. Okay, so it's posterior to your sternum, anterior to your spine. Alright? Your heart. I guess I'll put this on. Your heart is made of cardiac muscle. Okay? There are skeletal muscle tissues. Yes? Are we familiar with the different types of muscle tissues? It's one of the three types. Cardiac muscle is one of the three types. It's similar to skeletal muscle. Okay? In the sense that it's thin, striated. Okay? We all know what striated means. Striated means that we have muscle fiber, or a muscle, and it's the striations. This is part of why I said master your anatomy. When you're rolling people or you're doing therapy, you want to follow those striations, right? So if you look over here on our big muscular guy here, you'll notice that there are feathers for the rectus femoris. You have feathers coming one way, going the other way. When you're rolling people, you want to follow those striations or feathers, as we call them. When you get the chance to look at it closely, that really just does look like a feather. Okay. So cardiac muscle is one of the three types of muscle. It is primarily very short, tight, thin muscle that is spaced apart with gray bands called intercalated discs. Intercalated discs. Again, these are spaces, gray bands in between that separate and connect the different bands, the different fibers of cardiac muscle. Okay, they hold the muscle cells together during contractions and electrical impulses. Okay, are we all aware that the nervous system uses electrical impulses to make things happen? Yes. Okay. So we're going to get into how that happens to the heart. The heart is very special. Cardiac muscle is the only type of muscle that has its own electric impulse distribution system. Are you with me there?
Yes.
Woo! Okay.
Can you tell me the chapter of the cardiac?
Can I tell you which chapter it is? Of course, it's chapter 3. So if you have your book, you can follow along because we're going right with it. Okay? Everybody with me? Okay, so let's talk about those. Let's talk about those nervous impulses. Come on in, take a seat. Let's talk about those nervous impulses. Okay, electrical conduction system of the heart is the framework through which the heart receives electrical impulses from the brain and then distributes them. They all start at the sinoatrial node. The sinoatrial node. Nodes are junctions nervous system's junctions that take in electrical impulses and distribute it to muscle. Everybody with me? So that is your SA node, your sinoatrial node. And I'm going slow with this stuff because it's also just really heavy stuff, and it's going to get particularly heavy towards the second stack. Okay? I'm sorry that I didn't get to teach functions. That would have been way more fun. Okay, so we're going to go from the sinoatrial node, which is at the top of the heart, down through the atrioventricular node, the AV node. SA node into AV node. One of the most interesting things about that little stupid thing is that the AV node spaces the pumping between your SA and AV, okay? So there's a lag, and that's how you get a bump, okay? A pump of the heart. So that little space in between that heartbeat is caused because of a lag between the SA and the AV node, okay? The AV node then distributes that through what are called the awesomely named Purkinje fibers. That's how you spell it. Purkinje fibers, okay? Your Purkinje fibers run, so if this was my heart, okay? My SA node would be at the top, and it's chapter 3. My SA node would be at the top of the heart, near the top. Okay. It would go down into my AV node over where the ventricles are, the atrials at the top, atrials at the top, ventricles at the bottom. Go into my AV node and then distribute around the heart. And if you have your book in front of you, well, then it'll look much better than this, but let's say this is the heart. Your Purkinje fibers create a mesh, a network that pumps the ventricles. Everybody with me? Very good. Okay, so let's talk about atriums, atria, plural, and ventricles. This is something you guys are going to need to know for your take-home tests. You guys have seen this box diagram before, yes? No?
No.
Okay. Feel free to yell out answers, okay? Unless I'm asking like a really specific question. Just yell out. Okay, I want to make sure that tells me that you guys are awake too. So we have our, just so I make sure you get this right. So we have, the first thing about the heart is that it is I'm sorry?
Yeah, anatomically.
Yes,
Flip.
anatomically aligned. So you're talking about in theater it would be stage right or stage left, right? You're talking about what the audience sees, okay? Or in this case, you're talking about what the person is perceiving. Right, the right side of my heart is left to you, but you're still going to call it my right atrium. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to have our, and this is why right now I'm going to write right on the left side of this box, okay? And so you guys don't think I'm losing that. So we have the right atrium, left atrium, thank you, right ventricle, left ventricle, okay? Everybody with me? This chart makes a lot more sense when you add the places where that blood is going, okay? When you add the places of where that blood is going, you're going to have a better time, okay? Let's talk about those parts of the blood system, of the cardiovascular system before we go into there. So we have our heart, correct? And then we have the pathways that lead in and out of our heart. We have arteries.
Veins.
We got veins. We got capillaries, right? And if I wanted to be very specific, I'd flip these two because that would be the order it goes in. Arteries into what are called atrials, okay? Which are the little tiny junctions between arteries and eventually those capillaries. Capillaries are where things happen. Okay? Capillaries are where the transfers of oxygen happen, where the chemical reactions that keep your body and muscles moving, that's where that's happening, okay? They come out of there, and the blood being returned to the heart comes through veins. Okay? Everybody with me? We've got lungs up here. This is what I was talking about. And the body down here, rest of the body. Okay? Here's how it works. Out of the left atrium, we're going to go to our pulmonary vein. You guys have not covered this, correct?
No.
Okay. That's our pulmonary vein. Okay? Out of our right ventricle, we're doing the lungs first. Okay? This is our pulmonary artery. Can anybody tell me Which one brings the blood to the heart? Which one goes to the lungs? Arteries.
Oh,
Other way.
yeah, arteries go, mostly goes to
Arteries
the bottom.
go places, veins come back. Okay? So your pulmonary artery will go from your right ventricle all the way up to your lungs, or not all the way, it's very close. You're going to go from those lungs right back to the pulmonary vein. Okay? Ventricles have lower pressure pumping systems. Okay? Why? Why is it that I need lower pressure to get to my lungs than I do to my legs? Anybody take this?
Travel.
It's closer, thank you, yes. It's close, travel time, okay? So if it's further away from your leg, from your heart, you're gonna need more energy, okay? And you're gonna need that to pump properly through your heart. When you go through your book, you have some very in-depth ways of looking at that, okay? You're gonna have stroke volume, you're gonna have decompression through the ventricles and the atriums of your heart. So these are things that I suggest understanding, but at the same time, I want you to really get the idea that arteries flow away, that veins come in, and that this is how your heart is set up, okay? Your body, let's talk about your body. The blood going to your body. This is gonna be your aorta. I'm gonna come up this way, and then the back of our atrium. You'll notice that now all four links are done. All four links are happening. This is called our vena cava. Okay? Your aorta is the largest artery, period. Okay? It's the one that sends all of that blood to the rest of your body. So it makes sense that it would be the biggest blood vessel in your body. Okay? Things to think about there. How do you calculate what is happening as it pumps out blood, okay? When you are looking at stroke volume, so let's talk about stroke volume. Stroke volume is the quantity of blood pumped in one pump out of your heart, okay? The amount of blood pumped out of each heart with each contraction. Does that make sense? And the way to calculate stroke volume is by, first of all, measuring the amount of blood in the ventricle. So right before it leaves that left ventricle, everybody with me here? Right before it leaves that left ventricle, use red, you have a certain amount of blood, correct? That is called your EDV. It's called your EDV. What is left in the ventricle once it's done is called your ESV.
So end-diastolic volume.
Yes, it is end-diastolic volume. Sorry, end-diastolic volume, end. Okay? As in once the blood has been filled, diastolic volume, and then end-systolic volume, which is what remains, how much has been pumped out. End-systolic volume. I can tell you that in a typical heart, you're going to have about a 70 milliliter stroke volume. Okay? So 70 milliliters are going to leave that ventricle as the heart contracts. Okay? I tell you that stroke volume, but how did I get there? Okay? Now this is just simple math. Everybody with me? We have the top amount minus what's left. The difference is what left the heart. So stroke volume being the amount of blood volume that was pumped out of that ventricle, end diastolic volume being what was in there before, and systolic volume being what was left at the end, the difference of those being our stroke volume. Any questions on that? Good. You guys stop me if you need any more of this, okay? This stuff. Okay? So, let's talk about heart rate. Okay? We now know how our heart is pumping blood to the rest of our body, how we're keeping our respiratory system moving. So how do we calculate where we're at in that space as a human, right? If we have that pumping, what does that mean? So the rate at which a heart beats is your heart rate, okay? Heart rate is easy to find. And it's something that you should probably get really good at, because in general you want people working hard, and in general you want to know how hard you're working, correct? So there's a really easy way to do this. I want everybody to do it with me. First of all, when we take heart rate, we can't use our thumbs. Why can't we use our thumbs?
Because you're not going to get their actual number.
Well, you're definitely not. And why am I not going to get that actual number?
There's no pulse?
There is a pulse.
There
So
is.
your thumb has a pulse itself, so it's impossible to measure thumb to artery or to vein or anything like that. Okay? So that's gonna make you skip the part where you're like, okay, I'm figuring this out, and now I don't know why I'm figuring out because it doesn't make any sense, right? We got to do it like this, and you've seen this in movies. Also, if you watch some Grey's Anatomy, you'll see a lot of funky stuff of this. Okay, you'll see a lot of this is where shows mess up, and in many other places. But particularly when we're taking that, there's a really quick and easy way to do it, because another thing is that you're not going to be like, yeah, I'm killing it, and then you're like, okay, I need a watch, and now I need a cuff, and now I'm going to figure. Right? That gets too complicated. How do we figure it out as quickly as possible? We use our index and middle finger, we put it over. Yes, you can do carotid, but it's going to be more confusing than if you come right down here. This is a clear, easy pulse. It should be on the left side of your left wrist. Okay? Everybody feel a pump there when they put their hands, their two fingers there. I'm dead. If you don't, you're dead. Okay? That's all this means. So, try that out. Go ahead and put your fingers there, make sure you feel the pulse. And the way that we're going to do this so that it's much quicker than anything that you've ever done is that you're going to measure for 6 seconds how many beats happen, okay? So everybody ready? You're going to count how many beats happen in the next 6 seconds. Here we go. In 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Does everybody have a number? The number of beats that they got in that moment? Multiply that by 10 or just add a 0. So for me, I got 7 beats in those seconds. Okay? Resting heart rate of 70 beats per minute. Okay? Which is just an average. We're all sitting here. If your heart rate's higher than that, you need to work on it. Okay? You need to get out there and hit it. So, make sure that you're using that from time to time. Okay? Become accustomed to it. Use it outside today while we're working out. Where's my heart rate at? Oh my God, I forgot how this happens. Andres, Andrew, can you come help me? Okay? There you go. It's easy stuff, and that makes you have that number in 6 seconds. Okay? That's going to be more accurate than the little handles and the polar things. Okay? It's just you're right there. You're ready to go, and it might not be more accurate, but it's going to be way easier. Okay? And it's going to be just about as accurate, if that makes sense. Okay? Because heart rate zones, as we'll learn today, are not the secret to things. Okay? Like fat burning zones or myths, I'm sorry to say. We're talking about fat burning and other things, and more in-depth things like that. You're going to find that we're talking about energy systems. Energy systems are way more complicated than I eat carbs. I can work out. This happens, right? Or my heart rate is at 130, so now I'm burning fat. We wish it was like that, because then all those machines would be telling us the truth. But they simply aren't. And you guys have already heard this, I'm sure, but when you're on top of those treadmill machines in general, or ellipticals, the numbers that are coming out of there are just not true. You know, when you hop on there and you're burning 700 calories in an hour, that must be a very wild elliptical sprint that you did there for an hour. Okay? Because the reality is you're probably burning somewhere between 200 and 300 calories in your workouts. Okay? So, let's talk. Everybody with me on all of this? No questions? Okay? Let's talk about blood. Anybody need to take a picture of this before you lead it? Okay. Let's talk about blood. Okay, blood is made up of cells, each other, right? Red blood cells carry oxygen throughout your body, okay? So when your blood goes into the heart and it goes to the lungs, it's the red blood cells that are bringing the oxygen around. Everybody get that? Another cool thing here to note is that plasma, okay? And that's plasma, and I'm sorry, that is one little detail. So it's actually plasma, but plasma has white blood cells, okay? There you go. So your blood is made up of 55% plasma and 45% red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, okay? Everybody with me? Good. Okay, the three functions of blood. What are the mechanisms of blood? Now, obviously, you might be seeing this if you have your book open, but we're going to do transportation, regulation, and protection. Okay, transportation, we're transporting oxygen. We're transporting white blood cells to areas that need it. We're transporting hormones to organs and tissues. And we're carrying heat. Also carrying waste away from areas, because remember, we're always dropping off good stuff and picking up bad stuff and taking it out, okay? Everybody with me? Your regulation. How does it regulate? It's going to regulate in two ways. We're going to regulate temperature, and we're also going to regulate pH balance, okay? pH balance is this very hot thing these days, where everybody's trying to be alkaline, everybody's trying to drink alkaline water, okay? And I will let you guys make your own decisions on that, but I suggest that when you make decisions on things like that, you find yourself a peer-reviewed database, which is PubMed, or other sources that you can use to find out whether the studies that we hear, I can very easily say, clinical study proves that 30 days of alkalinity cured cancer. Okay? This is real, I've read these, okay? I've had people walk into the office and say, hey man, have you tried this spirulina? It'll make your body completely alkaline. And it's incredible how much, and it's weird, but everybody cures cancer. Okay? Everybody cures cancer. Those things, and a lot of the things that you will hear out there about different types of diets, different types of additives that you can put into your life and your body, it's just good marketing. Okay, same thing with the fat burning cells, right? If I put a machine of torture there, do you want to do it? Probably not so much. But if I put a torture machine there and I put this little light that turns on when you are in a fat burning zone, you're going to use it more. Because you're going to be like, God, wait, all I have to do is turn that little light on to burn fat, right? Yes. They have you to leave. So remember those things. Your blood, your liver, your kidneys are what's really creating pH balance. Okay? You have to be within a very limited pH balance for your body to actually function pretty properly, okay? So again, it's nothing that probably a water will change. It doesn't hurt. Just be aware of why you're doing things and whether there are already systems doing it for you. Detox being a great example of that. Liver and kidneys do detox for you. I don't care how much laxative or thrill herb or chamomile tea you put inside yourself, it's not going to detox you, okay? It's not going to detox you. And as a matter of fact, when you try to fast as well, you try to fast for detox, look man, if fasting helps you schedule your day out, great. But if you think that you're detoxing yourself, that's not the reason to do it. Because that was happening already through your liver and kidneys, okay? And there's no amount, I still haven't seen it, somebody please send me one if you haven't, but I still haven't seen a peer-reviewed article with a sample size that made sense, so not 2 people, talking about hundreds or thousands of people, and a controlled study situation. I've never seen one of those that actually proves anything of anything that isn't exercise and food in a moderate manner will get you where you're trying to go. Okay, the rest of it is something that is probably already happening in the background, or you're going to need something stronger than water and tea. Okay? So, we've got transportation, regulation, and protection. We already talked about how the blood vessels will carry platelets to the sites where you are cut or open to provide a clotting mechanism. Okay? Everybody with me? All right. So here we go. Let's talk about your blood vessels one more time. This is how it works. Okay? That is how it comes out of your heart, how it goes into your body, the order in which it happens. So arteries become arterioles, which are smaller versions of arteries that diffuse into different areas. They eventually turn to capillaries. Capillaries return the flow back into veins. Okay? Your biggest vein being your vena cava, which we went ahead and described how it works, where it is, and why it's important. Okay? Everybody with me? Okay. Let's talk respiratory system. Let's talk respiratory system. Okay. Who can tell me the parts of the respiratory system? Also known as the pulmonary system. Who can tell me what that includes? You're already on it, Sean. Hit me.
O2, CO2 exchange.
Well, give me the physical parts. What are the physical parts?
Relax.
What? Lungs? Lungs, airways, thank you, yes. Lungs. Airways. And what are called alveoli. The fun words to that. And there are a bunch of structures that have to do with your respiratory system. Okay, there's your respiratory pump. There are muscular additions that you'll notice come into play when you're talking about exhaling and inhaling. It's not just your diaphragm. Okay, but we have lungs, airways, and alveoli. And as Sean very rightly said, one of the main points to bring oxygen into the body and do CO2 exchange in the tissues. So the waste products of being alive are usually going to be water, heat, and CO2. Okay? That's what's happening. Well, that's your exhaust pipe. And so this is part of getting that exhaust out. Okay? This is literally the CO2 coming out of your tailpipe. Okay? When you are breathing, you're going to have two major points. Okay? You're going to have two major facets. You have inspiration and expiration, or inhalation and exhalation. I think expiration is a little dark. So you have inspiration and expiration, okay? Inspiration is going to happen by your chest expanding and dropping the pressure inside of your lungs to a lower place than the atmospheric pressure outside. That is how gas physics work, okay? It's not that we're sucking things in. We are creating a vacuum inside, yes, so sucking things in, but you're creating a vacuum. The reason it happens is because of pressure. The pressure outside of your body is higher than the pressure inside of your body, therefore air will force itself into a low pressure area, okay, i.e. your lungs. Expiration or exhalation will be the opposite of that, right? We're going to be compressing that air, creating a higher pressure inside the lungs than outside of the lungs. Therefore expelling air and CO2 with it out of the body. Okay? So you're going to have things that are included in this. For example, speaking of inspiration, your diaphragm is going to be a part of it. Okay? The muscle below your lungs. Your external intercostals. Okay? Your scalenes right up here by your neck. Pectoralis minor. Pec minor. Okay, we're always thinking about our pecs as being there for bench, but they're there also to aid in the homeostatic functions of your body. Homeostatic meaning homeostasis. Homeostasis meaning everything's okay, everything's functioning. You want to be in homeostasis. Okay? Everybody with me there? Incoming air. I don't know if you've ever been in a really cold place, a cold, dry place, things crack, right? So if you are out in, Colorado, for example, out in the mountains, that air gets really crisp. And sometimes it can create cracking in your skin. It can kind of burn the inside of your nose. Okay, part of the reason that we have nose hairs, that we have those pathways, and this is something that can even be applied to dogs. Dogs with shorter nasal pathways are sturdier and have a harder time in hot weather than dogs with longer, like greyhounds, which are meant to run and be in whatever weather they need to be in, right? The longer those airways are, the nostril hairs, those things create humidity. And humidity is one of the reasons that you are even sending those things, sending that air down those structures. It needs to be purified and humidified. Those nostril hairs are there. It starts right at your nose. Those hairs start picking up dust particles and things that you don't want. And as it makes its way through the respiratory system, it's also humidified as it gets down there, so it's easier on your lungs. Okay? Everybody with me? Okay. The main reason that we're inspiring, that we're inspirating, that we're inhaling, is to get air into our body, oxygen primarily, and get it to our lungs and cause something called diffusion. Diffusion is O2 being put into your muscular tissues, into your lung tissues, into the alveoli. Alveoli are the wonderful little sacs. If you were to look inside of your lungs, let's make it prettier than what it would look like, but it would look like a berry tree. Okay, a berry shrub, if that makes sense. You have little branches that lead to little berry sacs. Okay, those inhale the O2 and diffuse it into do carbon dioxide exchange right there in the alveoli. Carbon dioxide comes out, and the oxygen that was pumped in goes into the blood system, into the pulmonary. Right? Okay, we'll bring that oxygenated blood over to the heart. Ready with me? Okay, here we go, guys. So, when we put the two together, that's where we get the thing we kind of touched on in the beginning, the cardiorespiratory system. Okay, the cardiorespiratory system is the two main systems that are involved in how you feel through your exercise. Okay? Are you pumping enough blood? Are you doing it with efficiency? And is your respiratory system working? Are you breathing properly? Are you diffusing properly? Is your oxygen capacity in a place that makes sense, right? Everybody, when they sit down, and they're a general healthy individual, for every kilogram of body weight, of body mass, muscle mass, you're going to take in about 3.5 milliliters of oxygen. Not very much, okay? Lance Armstrong, not me. Lance Armstrong, which now is not the best reference, but used to be a great reference, a little bit of dope in there, 80 milliliters of oxygen, okay? 80 milliliters of oxygen per breath, in each kilogram of muscle, of muscle mass, okay? So in each breath, that man is taking in 80 milliliters of oxygen into each kilogram of muscle. It's staggering, okay? Your average person is going to be, they're crushing it, they're out there crushing it, they're going to be hitting something like 40. Crushing it. Okay? If you're a lady or a guy and you're getting 40 mils per kilogram on your, and this is by the way VO2 max. This is how you find VO2 max. Obviously that 3.5 number is resting, so it's not a max rate, right? It's a resting rate. But the difference in max can be huge. The difference in max can be Sean out there crushing it at 35, 40, 45, and Lance Armstrong crushing it on the Tour de France at 80. Okay, and that's why that's where I think people are getting so bent out of shape. This is a good point in general for practical training. That's why people get bent out of shape with doping, and they get bent out of shape with training methods that aren't on the level. It's because if you make a biological difference like that, where you're processing 25% more oxygen than the rest of your competitors, there's no way anybody's going to win, right? Just that one simple metric means that you will be able to go longer and further than everybody else. Okay? So, VO2 max is something that I always invite you guys to go try out. You're not going to do it I mean, you can. It used to be one of our main assessments until we realized that most people, when they walk in, if they're 40 to 80, getting them on a treadmill for 6 minutes is going to be a brutal example of things to do, right? And you need a system. You need something like a Bruce test. There's a few ones. There's the YMCA version. There's a couple more in the book. If you're going to do a educated guess, then you can do it with something like a Bruce test. But you're making a lot of assumptions there. Okay, they're taking a lot of the variables out, and that's why there's such a difference between me putting you on a treadmill and using a chart, and you going in to do a VO2 max test, which if you guys have ever seen it in practice or ever had one, will require you to be on a treadmill with electrodes on and a mask that's measuring your resting metabolic rate, okay, and your respiration rate. Agree with me? It's a big difference between making assumptions and using a chart and then looking for true science. And what you want to guide yourself by as a trainer is true science, not guesses, right? Guesses are cool and you can bring them in, but true science that's been well studied and documented is what you should be basing your practice from. Okay? That's why I say get yourself a subscription to a clinical research database. Okay? Also, you're going to always be kind of easily veered into things that you may not have. Okay? So all of a sudden, all trainers are keto trainers. Does that make sense? Probably not, right? Is it like what? Keto is just hidden from us for eating fat. Eating fat as our main source was somehow hidden from us for the last 100 years? No, it's been well studied, okay? All of this has been well studied, and nothing shows anything other than proper calorie in, calories out for aesthetic purposes and strength purposes, okay? Then from then on, if you're talking about cardiac health, you're talking about, long-term health situations. That's where there is good study metrics for using polyunsaturated fats over saturated fats, right, or trans fats. Those are things that are there and that are accessible and that you can go ahead and promote to people. Guesses as to whether keto is the best thing for everybody. There's no good documentation for it. It seems much more anecdotal. It seems like people can easily cut out. If you are eating ice cream and cake in your bed at 9 p.m., well, then probably we're going to do two things. Number one, we're going to make you stop eating at 7, and you're going to go keto. So now you can't have carbs. And we're done, right? How easy was that? That's how that works. That's how that marketing works. Okay, so that's where this is what I'm really good at. Okay, so this is where you can get a lot of good questions answered. Where what is good marketing versus what is good training? And good marketing lasts for a little bit, but good practice will last for a lifetime. It sounds cheesy because it is, and it's true. Okay? So we talked about VO2 max. As I said, there are Rockport walk test, step test, and the YMCA bike protocol. Those are all easy enough to pull up on your phone if you want to try VO2 max. That, very good, guys. All doing very well. Abnormal breathing patterns. Let's talk about these before we break for a little bit. Check my. Yeah. Before we break for a little bit, cardio blast to make sure we're all feeling awake. Okay? So, what happens if somebody is, even better place to start. What is exercise? All the philosophical questions you've ever had. Exercise, when you're exercising, your body is going into shock. Let's all be very clear about that. We all saw a cheetah right now, and we're like, ah! And we all held our breaths, and Susanna ran out the room, and Sean goes to fight that cheetah. You're the one who gets to fight it.
Oh, I thought you said Cheeto. I was like,
No, a cheetah! Though that also happens for people who see cheetahs.
I heard Cheeto. I'm like, I don't know where he's going to see Cheeto.
We see a panther. We see a panther in the room. Okay, we're all freaking out. We're all freaking out. Some of us are holding our breaths. The breath stuck to the moment. Other people are trying to fight the panther. Other people are running right out the room. Okay? The systems that are happening in that moment are very similar to the systems that happen when I go, hey, Courtney, you ready for some drop sets? Let's go! And I just start crushing you. Your body doesn't know that I'm not a panther. As far as your cardiorespiratory system is concerned, I am a threat. Okay, so you go into shock, which means that you may have people pass out on the floor. You may have people who are like, and you're like, stop, please stop, breathe. Okay, those are the reasons that you're watching people, that you're doing talk tests, that you're doing, I'm looking at your face tests, okay? Because you can have normal breathing patterns such as asthma, come on, okay? Constricted airways, you're not getting it, and that right away you may have heard of exercise-induced asthma. People have literally that. Can you get rid of it? Yes, you can. Can you get rid of it if you massacre them on the first day? No, probably kill them. So, how do you push those thresholds? How do you do that smartly? You're watching. You're watching that for asthma and constricted breathing. You're going to watch for that if somebody is just overshocked and they're going into shallow breath or even into hyperventilation. Okay? And I will tell you, it doesn't happen often, but it has happened in my 5 years here at the Corps, a little bit less. Okay? We've been in practice longer, but in the 4.5 years that we've been here at the Corps, we have had a guy go like that and lay on down on the ground. Okay? It was wonderful that there was nothing around him, that it all worked out, but I guarantee you, and now I'm like this, how you doing, buddy? You okay? Okay, let's keep going, right? You're not making those mistakes once you know the reality. So I'm here to tell you, here's the reality, don't make the mistake. And before we break, I'll tell you something that really helped me. This one's life stuff, okay, but I got it for you. So we have the dumb guy, the smart guy, and the wise guy. Okay, and this can be what, a guy or a gal. Okay, so dumb people make mistakes, don't research, make mistakes, research, make mistakes, whatever, they make mistakes, and they don't learn from them. Okay, probably haven't researched at that point, right? The smart guy will research. He'll try his best, he'll make a mistake, but he'll learn from it, okay? The wise person sees other people's mistakes and learns from those mistakes. That is the concept of education, okay? So when you guys are in here, what you're really trying to do is figure out how many different ways can you avoid oblivion, okay? Because the problem with training is, and with general life stuff is that things aren't a problem until they are, right? You know, being a little late on your rent, or being a little late here, they're not good adult principles, but nothing's gonna explode. Do it a few times, you're putting yourself in a huge risk. This is different. This is more life-based, life or death, okay? So when you make a mistake in training, you're gonna injure somebody, they're gonna pass out on you, they're gonna call their doctor, and if you don't get sick, well, then you're a lucky person, okay? And that's also like insurance, that's important. You gotta have insurance, okay? But these are the principles of basic understanding. Why do we need to understand how the cardiorespiratory system works? How do we apply it, and why do we apply it the way that we do? And then, how much attention should I be paying to these things? You should be paying a lot of attention to it, okay? Because it can save you a lot on the tail end. Do a lot of upfront work, a lot of wisdom work, and it'll save you time down the road, okay? Okay, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to break you guys. We're going to do it for 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes to do a cardio blast. So pair up with something, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. We got 8. We're going to go to any cardio, piece of cardio machine. This is something you guys do regularly, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So you guys know the drill. Go out there and get it. Javon, I'm going to pair you with Sean. The rest of you guys pair up. Just go to any cardio piece of equipment and do some intervals together. We'll do 10 minutes. If you can do it upstairs, then I'll come and get you when